and welcome to The Wizard and the Priestess. My name is Nuala, my co-host is
Matt.
Welcome. We are going to dive straight into today the sixth element. Now,
This is following the spleen
of last week.
Yep.
Yeah. So, interestingly, the sixth element is kind of left out of the five elements because it kind of doesn't make it really smooth and easy. Like five elements, it's
Does
easy.
this complicate things?
Yes, complication, okay. That's the word. So in modern TCM, they make it really simple and they decided, no, you know what, there's only five elements, let's just roll with that. But actually, one of the most potent organs, could we say, is, or not organs, sorry, one of the most potent energetic systems is the sixth element, and that incorporates the Sanjiao or the triple burner and the pericardium or the heart protector.
Yep.
So those two, yin and yang together. So the yin aspect actually is the heart protector and the yang aspect is the Sanjiao or the triple burner, and we'll be using the word triple burner today. Now, the triple burner, if we want to look at it, is not an organ. It is a influential energetic force field, maybe. And essentially, it is an essential aspect to coordinating or communicating between the organs.
Yep.
So it is a necessity of influence and creating harmony, specifically with the hormones. And so it also has a really big impact on the transportation of fluids around the body.
Yep.
But we could I feel like instead of going into those physical aspects, just being really conscious that the triple burner is essentially the communication highway between all the organs. And so it's the way that we're going to kind of come together today is in this way of understanding that how influential it can be in terms of hormones. And Matt is going to give us a real beautiful understanding.
And Nuala's going to love every second.
And I'm going to love every single second of it. But I just want to, just to bring it in that whilst the pericardium or the heart protector actually has...
You're not talking about the pericardium meridian? This is its own thing? Just
yes,
for the listeners?
So the pericardium has its own meridian and so does the Sanjiao.
Yep.
So they run in the middle of the hand, or they start sort of in the middle. Is that
like the middle finger?
Sorry, no, the
ring finger.
Fourth finger,
Yeah.
So they will run up that inside. Inside is going to be pericardium, outside is going to be Sanjiao. So they essentially run, all the way up and then connect into the chest, and then they will connect to their leg yin yang organ and go down.
Okay.
So they're going into that middle line. But the point is that whilst we can correlate the pericardium to the physical pericardium, just the way that we correlate the other organs to the heart, the liver, the kidney and all the rest of it, it is sort of seen that they aren't, both of them essentially are more energetic than they are physical. So the pericardium's job is to protect the heart. The way I like to describe it in clinic is that we're literally, your heart is your Zen Shen. So it's like the Zen'd out guru that sits in the middle of your chest. Now, if the Zen has been, if we live in this world where we are being constantly zapped and shocked and moved by the environment around us, we therefore have the protector that maintains that Zen inside of our heart. So I just sort of imagine, if you're sitting in a cross-legged position, you're this guru meditator, that is you, like on the depths of your soul, that is where you land, that is who you are in this moment, or should be all the time, right? They essentially are in there. Now, you then have the heart protector. So the heart protector, I always kind of express it or demonstrate it in that you've got your heart and then you've got the casing around it. And that casing then blocks all of those attacks. So you've got like an attack from someone looking at you funny on the street, or you've got that attack from realizing that you've got to pay a bill that you don't have enough funds for, or you've got that attack of like having to do this crappy job that you're not enjoying. All of those attacks that kind of could impact that Zen Shen that's like chiller.
So it's your force field for the heart.
Absolutely.
Shield.
And your force field for everything, right?
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is if the heart protector has been overworked, like you are in an environment or your mental capacity, that environment is no good and not actually able to filter through any of this stuff, it just feels attacked, then you're actually going to start attacking the heart. And that's where, when we go back a few episodes, when we talked about the heart and how that connection piece, so we start to lose connection to the exterior world, or we start to go into that mania, bipolar kind of mental health aspects, which we will touch on soon. But so there is an aspect of it being, my point is, it's an aspect of being a physical, an actual physical thing, but also I want us to kind of have this idea that it's the protector of the heart, and it keeps us safe. It is the yin aspect, and then we have the yang aspect, and that is the sanjiao, the triple burner that I've just touched on before.
Yeah.
And now that triple burner is once again it is a protector in the way that is the influencer.
Yeah.
So if it is in disharmony, then we're not going to be able to communicate from one organ to the other. We're going to be kind of, we can, and this is the thing, the separation and disconnect. When we go and see, for example, I have a great example of this. My grandmother has been sick a few months ago, and she went to the renal doctor, and he gave her one lot of medication. Then she went to the heart doctor, and he gave her another lot of medication. And then she had a really bad reaction after a month and went back to the renal doctor. And the renal doctor said, why didn't he do this blood work that demonstrated that your heart is actually failing? And so this medication is actually really bad for you right now.
Right.
But this is what I'm saying in terms of modulation, and just getting really focused on one organ actually is not how our physical form functions. No. I know you're going to take this and run in a minute. I'm just going to finish off what I was going to say. But that idea that the triple burner essentially is that communication between the top and the bottom of all of our organs, all of our viscera, everything is communicating into each other based upon this energetic movement. So we need to make sure that it's clear and free and flowing. It's not blocked, and it can't necessarily be physically blocked, right? Because it's not a physical organ.
Yeah.
It's an energetic piece.
So it can only be energetically blocked.
Absolutely.
Through thoughts, feelings, stress.
Curriculum.
Yeah.
And the curriculum being what you're passed on by your parents. So yes, absolutely. And so I think that just getting really clear on that feels really important, that it is a massive influencer. It essentially, when we want to correlate it a little bit, we would correlate it to the harmony of the function of the hormones and how they actually have this function. But there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is that this piece is another part of fire, which is another part of the heart. So this element, this sixth element, essentially goes next to, when I learned in Chinese medicine school, what I learned was that we have the heart and the small intestine as fire, and then we also have the pericardium and triple burner as fire.
Right.
So they sit in that same element with the fire.
Okay.
Now, alternate view to that is that this sixth element actually has its own correlation, and it correlates more to heaven.
So it's its own thing.
It's its own element. It's the sixth element, and heaven and earth are more the correlation, which from my perspective makes a whole lot more sense. Because we have the earth being that transportation, transformation aspect of spleen, pancreas that we spoke about last time. And then we have the heaven, which is almost like that esoteric idea of bringing it all into play and interplaying it and kind of flowing together.
Well, that makes sense, because the heart and the pericardium would be the springboard to that kind of spiritual aspect, which would be the heaven.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the way that I have learnt recently with Jonathan Shubbs, who's really incredible and has his own. I mean, this isn't just his stuff. This is him reading the textbooks and interpreting it slightly differently. But it makes much more sense that the Sanjiao triple burner would be in that central piece with the earth element spleen stomach.
Yeah.
And then we've got that piece of heaven that comes from the pericardium, which correlates to our Shen heart, and that all brings it all into alignment and together.
So really, someone living in alignment, all their meridians clear, all that kind of stuff is functioning. We perceive life from the heart, from the level of the heart. Is that somewhat?
Yeah, it is. However, being conscious not to compartmentalize that is just, it's just the heart, right?
Yeah.
Being conscious that, well, really, I would be more, okay, we're going to go into something a little bit deeper and just a bit of a tangent. We have our internal, external world, and we would probably correlate those to a more like functioning side of us. So we'd look at the internal, external, we would look at the hun and the po, so we're looking at more of that lung, that movement, expansion of the lung, and that connection to the wood, that growth and expansion of the wood. So this internal, external. If we want to go one step deeper into the psyche, we would probably go into consciousness, unconsciousness, right? So that's like kind of what's going on inside of your mental capacity, like, yeah, I don't need it. Unconscious.
Conscious and unconscious.
Yes, unconscious.
Conscious.
And conscious. And that would probably move us more into the realms of water and heart.
Yeah.
And that would be, I'm being conscious not to go into the Chinese terms, just to keep us in the elements. So the water and the heart.
Yeah.
And that would be our kind of, they're like this, you know, this driving divine force that takes us sort of internally. Right. So that's sort of where that Shen, what I keep calling about the Zen Shen.
That's like the inner world.
Yeah, the soul, right?
Yeah.
Then we go one step deeper. And we would then go into that heaven and earth aspect.
Right.
And that's more collective unconscious.
Right. Okay. So we're all connected via this.
Yeah, via this triple burner.
Yep. Okay.
And the pericardium heart protector. So it's sort of, that would be us going one step deeper internally. And so when you said we kind of moving from that heart level, I would be like, okay, yeah, we are. That heart level is sort of that conscious, unconscious, but that's at one point.
There's more.
But there's more to that, because then we can go deeper and we go into the collective consciousness. Yeah. And that is sort of that ancestral consciousness, that kind of
That's everything. That's everything's consciousness.
And that would be called yi.
Yi.
And the yi is the intention. And so it's the intention of the energy, and that's what we've talked about previously in terms of...
Episode 5.
Is it?
Yeah.
God, you're all over it. Yeah, so that essentially is actually called, that word, is that intention is known as the yi, and that would come into this element as well as earth, but heaven and earth together correlative.
So the yi, the energetic cord from the yi, that's our plug type thing? That's what connects us? Via that?
I wouldn't call it a plug.
Well, the energetic, not a literal plug. Like an energetic cord that connects.
Yeah, the energetic cord, sure. Yeah. And it feels like it's not even a cord though. It's not quite, it's like the Big Bang.
Right.
It's the intention.
So it's the expansion of.
So
this is how each individual expresses that expansion of yi, was it?
Yeah.
Yep. But at an individual conscious level.
Inside.
Yeah.
So it's like this is sort of that seed of separation, wasn't it? From that perspective you were talking about, where the soul has this thought. Yeah. That is that's the yi of that external world coming into the human form.
And so then we live out those experiences of yi individually through the meridian system.
Yes.
Yep.
And that is how we can treat, is to go in via these ways. So we need to be very have the depth and knowledge to actually walk someone into that, because usually it's just that external, internal environment. That's about as far as we go. And then we can get to that conscious, unconscious, and then we can go into the depths. But that's when things start to get, and this is where I'm going to pass this on to you in terms of how things move with hormones. And we were just talking about something previously today about how, I'm going to quote Matthew Sorensen here, you can live without a nervous system, but you cannot live without hormones. Take it away, Matt.
My God, what an intro. We need to start with that. That was each better than the
Had a
intro.
few more things to say. I don't know how many minutes I just like, but yeah, go for it, jump on in.
So this relates more to the hormones rather than the physical organs themselves, yeah? Mm-hmm. So,
because it's not a physical organ.
yeah. So
it's an element.
We, as humans, we had hormones before we had a nervous system. All the nervous system does
Useless.
is speeds everything up.
Oh yeah, okay.
So you can actually live without a nervous system. Not much of a life, but you can survive without it.
Do you know many people surviving without a nervous system?
Not personally.
There are those though.
Well, I'll get onto that.
Physiologically, it's possible.
Yes, they've done experiments on rats where they took out the nervous system, and they were still alive, but everything just happened really slow.
Sounds
They could
terrible.
still eat, they could still go to the toilet, but it happened very, very slow. So we have think of it this way. You're sitting in a car with the engine on. Mm-hmm. You could sit there kind of indefinitely until the petrol runs out. But you could sit there for a long time. Mm-hmm. Do
you know how long?
Hamish and Andy did something like that.
Did they?
Anyway,
You can search it.
I digress. So you could sit in the car for a fairly long time just sitting there with the engine running, but you're not going to go anywhere.
No.
The nervous system is the accelerator.
Cool.
It speeds everything up.
Can I just note that the triple burner could actually be correlated to the mitochondria?
Ah.
So that sort of comes into what you're just describing. So it could actually have being the influencer and the harmonizer of everything.
Yeah. So our three major hormones, the hormones we cannot live without, are adrenaline, insulin, cortisol.
Adrenaline, insulin, and cortisol.
And adrenaline, the receptor sites for adrenaline are actually in muscle tissue.
Okay.
The cortisol receptor sites are in the brain, and the receptor sites for insulin are in
pancreas.
That's where it's produced.
Oh.
We should produce spurts of insulin every 6 seconds from the pancreas. So Noel's got to keep count for us today. He's going to have a little whatever that is, a little episode on our own. And
receptors, insulin receptors.
Yeah, so each cell does have an insulin receptor.
But if the adrenaline's in the muscles and the cortisol's in the brains, where's the insulin? In every cell.
It can go to every cell. But however, cortisol is the only hormone that does not require a key to get into every cell. So it comes and goes as it pleases, and it needs to be like that because in case of a fight-flight situation, everything needs to be on the same page to run away from the lions and tigers and bears. So those hormones essentially tell the body what to do. The role of a hormone is to tell the body what to do. So you've got your adrenaline that tells you to drop everything and run or fight for your life. Essentially, it tells you to spend everything that you've got because you're about to die. That's the role of adrenaline.
Better buy my car.
Well, keep going. But it's not sustainable by itself, right?
Yep.
Then you've got cortisol, which is a bit of a paradoxical hormone because it starts as an anti-inflammatory hormone, but then when the adrenals get tired and you don't produce enough cortisol, that's when that policing mechanism doesn't happen. So people with adrenal fatigue, especially phase 2 and onwards, they ache all the time. So conditions like fibromyalgia, fibro meaning tissue, myalgia pain, they're not producing enough cortisol.
Which makes perfect sense.
And the original definition of fibromyalgia was actually adrenal fatigue.
Yeah, right.
So they're just essentially burnout, more or less.
But yeah, burnout, and then isn't that interesting because there's all that new research, like not so new, but like the research that essentially demonstrates that most people with fibromyalgia have some correlative trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. And every fibromyalgia patient I've worked with, you can trace it back to a certain point in time.
Oh, like nearly every single disease that we know of can be traced back to. But
funny that,
interesting.
And then, they
Insulin.
just went downhill from that moment on.
Yeah, farewell.
Yeah.
Is there something about fibromyalgia? Is not the one where no, that's Huntington's. Okay. No, sorry, the one where they give up. There's like a give up moment, and like there's a give up on life. But fibromyalgia is maybe, it'd be very interesting because I think Gabor Mate talks a little bit about specifically fibromyalgia and how but it is so cool that it's correlative to cortisol, and that being that anti-inflammatory base, or did you say it's a base hormone for, it's a
major hormone. We need cortisol to live, to get around, to operate. But if we produce too much of it, so we're designed to handle about, depending on what book you read, 90 minutes to 4 hours of stress a day. That's it.
And that stress could just be like, I need a poo, or I need a wee, and I need to find
get some
toilet.
food, or this has happened, and then, but because we're immersed in that environment all day, every day in our current lifestyle.
No, Matt, you are not immersed in stress all day, every day. You hang out with me.
I am now. So we just burn ourselves out.
Totally.
And then insulin tells our body to store energy. And the more you have coming on board, the more you need to store.
Who makes the insulin again? The pancreas.
Yep. The glial cells, to be precise.
Oh yeah. Do you talk about that in terms of, is that our scarcity organ? That sounds like a bit of a scarcity organ.
Yeah. I can't remember. Did we say that?
No, I'm saying that now though. What you just described in that insulin tells you to save everything.
We'll save energy, yeah.
We'll save energy.
So we've got one hormone telling you to spend everything now, one hormone telling us to store and save everything, and cortisol's that in between, and it's supposed to be the police of, spend a bit of this, save a bit of that. But if you could see if any of those are out of balance, how that can cascade down the endocrine tree, and you can end up with all kinds of weird and wonderful things.
God, I'd love to know if this comes in to like a money masterclass, like if anyone's talking about this in terms of like you got to get your abundance adrenaline on.
Yep.
Right. We also how much that scarcity you actually really need, and then what do you really want the police involved?
Yeah.
This all sounds like a bloody conundrum. Humans.
The paradox that is life.
I yelled really loud.
That's right. Perhaps we edit that out. Or not, whatever. Don't care.
Let me try.
So then from there you've got your minor hormones, which is your progesterones, your estrogens, your testosterones, aldosterones.
Oxytocin?
Oxytocin, serotonin. All those hormones not necessarily come from per se, but every person I've worked with that has hormonal imbalances, and let's be honest, it's not hard to spot hormonal imbalances, but if what do you 98%, no comment is what I'm suggesting, 98% of people with hormonal imbalances, unless there's like a what's it called, like if it's a genetic thing or a specific medical thing that they were born with, which I have seen, then it's acquired through life, but it's come through diet and lifestyle factors every single time.
Okay. So, interesting. What did you just say before you went on to the diet and lifestyle thing?
Something very witty and intelligent, no doubt.
We really need a manager to tell me what you just said. Keep going. So we've got all these hormones essentially come from we've got our important hormones, our 3 important hormones, and then we have our extra hormones.
Yeah. So it's the hormones that give us the experience. It's because of the hormones you can think about something and have a relationship with it. It's because of our hormones allows us, think of the hormones as the subtle bridge between the tangible and non-tangible. So you were talking about yin?
Yi, the intention.
Yi, sorry. The yi and how that's lived out in the physical world. Our hormones are the bridge that allows that bridge to be formed.
The bridge to be formed, or the energy to cross the bridge?
Both.
Okay, so it forms it and it.
So the
is
energy.
it.
So the thought would be the energy.
Oh yeah.
And then it's the bridge that creates the form, which is in form.
Yes.
And as a human body, we are made up of energy and information. So we are energy in formation.
We should be called in any form then, not a human.
Wow. I thought we agreed that I'd be the joke teller on this. Wow. There's a few hormone jokes that you went right past.
I was smoothly moving
right.
away from those because I know where they take us. But I was just thinking about the any form humans.
Wow.
That's a really good
You're
one.
really happy with that, aren't you?
I am.
Good for you.
Well, you
I'm happy
just
for you.
like broke it down. Energy with information
Yep.
in form. We should obviously be called an inform. It's
Okay.
pretty straightforward there, I'd say. Interesting though, because I think this is really important that from a TCM perspective, we would really put like a lot of the specifics of hormones would be in the center.
Yeah, okay.
And they would be in that, well, obviously in this heaven element, but the heaven earth central element as well. So when we're treating things that are hormonally imbalanced generally, or not generally, but we can go to these meridians, which is the flow of energy pathways, to really help and adjust to ensure that the hormones are functioning.
So if with someone, let's say someone's doing hormone replacement therapy. Just as they've come to you, they've been doing HRT for X amount of time.
Usually a woman, are you talking? HRT
It could be
is
anyone, really.
Okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
Let's say a woman in this case.
Yeah.
She comes to you, I've been on hormone replacement for 2 years, let's say.
Yeah.
What's the TCM action point?
Cooked. See ya. No.
Good. Giving hope to millions everywhere we are. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, we try our best, but that's it.
Off to the farm.
No, so when I have patients come in with HRT, the hardest thing, okay, so my play on this, or my experience with this, is mainly women that have traversed or are in the middle of perimenopause. They haven't quite moved through menopause yet. So they start having the signs and symptoms, usually emotional symptoms, and then the physical signs and symptoms that come. So then they're like, well, I need my hormones, I need to be adjusted, like help me out.
Yep.
Now, they end up in a position where, from my perspective, I'm like, what you are doing right now is you are keeping yourself in the doorway. Your body and your soul are ready to move through the doorway to become the wise woman. They are ready to move the energy that keeps moving down to create babies into the kidney or the womb, or anything going down into that lowest level space. They are ready. Your body and everything in your mind is telling you we're ready to move up. But we're showing you where you have neglected us. Where you have maybe not, we are showing you what you need to do to actually transform. We are showing you the pieces of the puzzle, the splinters or the or the energy that isn't quite the shadow work that you haven't quite lent into through your womanhood. It is time to now look into that before you transform, before you move on. And so what ends up happening is they take these hormones that keep them in the doorway, that actually want to move you back through the door, the other way, the way you came in. And you never, so from my perspective, that's something to get really clear on, is that you're ready to move forward, and why you're getting this perimenopausal signs and symptoms to the extent that you're getting them, from my perspective, there is a piece of your puzzle that you haven't quite grappled with. Now, how many 48, 50 to 60-year-old women want to hit, or they're not, usually it's between 45 and 50 these days that I will see these women. None of them want to stop what they're doing. So usually I have to catch. It's it's something to be really conscious of, that we really have.
I think the main thing I would see would be fluid retention.
Okay.
That's the first thing.
Interesting, because the triple burner.
Oh yes.
Has,
Go on.
Well, one of its most important functions is to transport the fluids.
Oh, fluid regulation. Very interesting.
So you're seeing that, okay.
Yeah.
And what do you see? Do you see more, what sort of fluid retention?
Let's say,
like bloating?
Not necessarily bloating, it can be,
Yeah.
but more so along the lines of, it'll give someone the perception of themselves that they are fat. So they themselves think they're holding a lot of body fat, where in reality it's just they're holding fluid.
Oh yeah, I see that.
And that's usually because their body's in a fight or flight, it's too stressed, or there's so much inflammation or so much toxicity in the system, the body holds on to water to try and dilute it or put the fire out.
What hormone's doing that?
The
fluid retention.
Oh, it's a combination of all of them. But
Yeah,
it's probably, it's not enough. I'd say cortisol's been depleted.
So the policeman.
And insulin's going crazy.
Wants to save everything.
But then that cycle goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Eventually, you wear out the poor old pancreas and you become a type 2 diabetic.
Ah, I see, said the blind man.
That he did. That he did.
Wow, that's really cool.
So where would this triple burner, how would people know if there's something going on for them in that particular?
I mean, it would be, it's probably not, I don't like the compartmentalization of the elements or organs, because it's sort of
so they don't
not
really correlate to one particular thing or another.
Well, they can, of course.
Yeah.
Like if we saw fluid retention, if we saw lack of metabolic function, if we saw hormonal disharmony, for sure. We like all the things we've spoken about.
Here we are. Yep.
However, I wouldn't. I like to keep my elements connected, and I like to think that. Well, this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Textbook.
Yeah.
Is one thing. Real life is a completely other thing.
Yeah, the map isn't the terrain.
Say that again, mate.
The map is not the terrain.
It's absolutely it. There's hills and there's bush and there's all sorts of twigs. It's rocks.
Yep.
So, I love analogies. But yeah, I think like when we get stuck on that, that's how I learn at school. And then you go out into the big world and no one has specifically like triple burner water metabolic dysfunction just as it is. And then you just go, oh sweet, I've got these 4 points that I can use for this one thing.
So there's no magic pill for that?
No. However, there are like specific ways of treating that you can treat like an upper burner issue or a middle burner issue or a lower burner issue. And I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, but the triple burner is like it's a three-leveled system. Influenza. So we have the upper, which is sort of correlated to the lung and the heart. Then we have the middle, which is sort of that like heaven and earth. What we've talked about, but mainly more or earth and wood, like that central digestive aspect. And then we've got the lower burner, which was probably more the water, but there are like the bladder. The kidney does come in there, but we've got, our reproductive organs, they kind of all come into that lower. So then the communication is the communication between those three levels and layers, and they influence each other, and that's the communication. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at for this element anyway, is that we are communicating to everyone. And that is something that is really important, that we aren't just one without the other. We need to have the whole picture.
Which is kind of opposite of what the medical system does.
Absolutely.
Because they would look at, say, adrenal stuff. Oh, you just give you more cortisol. That'll fix everything.
Totally.
And people that do a lot of physical activity, they run out and get cortisone shots, which is just a synthetic version of cortisol, injected into the joint, and oh, my shoulder doesn't hurt. But that typically lasts for maybe a month.
Yeah.
2 if you're lucky. But the original problem hasn't been addressed.
No. We live in a Band-Aid world.
Certainly do.
But we're here to tell you that you don't have to.
So what's some suggestions you would suggest for, well, I guess to wrap this series up?
Yeah.
So this is the harmonising mechanism between all of the
5 elements.
the 5 elements. So this is the encapsulation.
To some extent, it's also part of it.
Yeah, okay. So apart from listening to episodes 2 and 3, which would go a long way to helping anyone with any kind of issue that we've really discussed thus far.
Listen to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you're sweet.
Cool. Done.
Just, yeah, bring it all around.
Bring it all, but also acknowledging that it is all one system.
Yeah.
And you can't.
So we're breaking this down into the way that, so the pieces, the bite-sized pieces, so that we can kind of understand a little piece, get a little bit more into it, so that we can potentially practice a little bit if we're noticing those disharmonies. However, you're going to have more than just one disharmony at the same time. So it's, I guess, as a menstruating woman, you could probably get really hone in on those particular 5 elements throughout your cycle.
Yeah.
And get really clear on those things, what's actually coming up, how you can focus. For a man, it's probably going to be more on that 24-hour cycle, which is more about, okay, wake up in the morning, make sure I use my muscles today, make sure I use my brain today, and allow myself to rest today.
Yeah.
Would you have anything specific for a male to get in contact or connected to his hormones more?
The best answer I would give, because it's such a big topic, and I'm not going to start on that because Noel's going to fall asleep. I would say that, so there's a question I get asked a lot is, so what should I be eating then?
Oh, food.
So we make hormones from the food that we eat. And people say that the most important meal of the day is breakfast, but no one knows why. And there's actually 2...
Can we talk about this next time?
The quick answer is the first thing that you eat sets up your neurotransmitter profile in the brain. So typically your dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine and GABA. So they're the neurotransmitters that help us process the hormones, the receptor sites. And I was going to wake Nula up.
Hurry up!
So, eat real food.
I love that. Thanks so much, Matt. Eat real food. That is fantastic. Guys, we actually have something in store for you in a few weeks, so just stay tuned. We're excited that you're here with us, and subscribe if you like our pieces.
Our pieces.
What are we doing? Like our stuff,
Like our
and
stuff.
it really means a lot, and we love that you're listening, and we're going to keep some polls out there. So if you can keep answering our polls, that feels really fun, because we're going to start touching on those
Polls.
polls.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.